Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan, and I'm not at 100% right now, so apologies for the lack of content, but we're going to try and get through this video today, and hopefully we'll be a little bit better soon. But if you do enjoy this team selection video for Game Week 19 today, please do leave a like, please do subscribe. Let's have a look at my scores from Game Week 18. We're going to try and keep this one moving so I could go back to bed. Alright guys, so first of all, Game Week 18 scores another reasonably respectable score, I think. 61 points, pretty decent scores across the board. A couple of blanks here and there, a couple more disappointments, particularly from the Man City guys. Cancelo and Foden once again not starting the game. Rashford not starting the game due to disciplinary reasons. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. My transfer of Reece James to Luke Shaw definitely works out. And we've got a rank increase of 200,000 places, same as the week before. If we could just keep doing that every single week, slowly chip away at it. There's plenty of game weeks left, 20 to be precise, so I think we can just keep going, ticking away with this one, and I think things will be all right in the end, I hope. We're moving in the right direction, which I'm happy with a lot of my players, but we've definitely got some things to think about, as currently I only have Kepa and Andreas, who have double game week fixtures in Game Week 19, so we've got to figure out how we're going to do that, how we're going to deal with some of these Man City guys as well. There's still lots to think about and lots to talk about. Alright, so for Game Week 19, I've got one free transfer, 1.6 million in the bank. Let's start off in goal with Kepa. Double game week, very, very obvious. He's done quite well so far. He is making saves. Unfortunate to not keep a clean sheet in the last game. Or maybe he was fortunate to only concede one goal. I suppose it depends how you look at it. But yeah, Kepa is one of the few Chelsea defensive players who I actually have any confidence in right now. It seems like Chelsea's defence is still not quite there. The whole team is really not quite there. But Kepa, even in a double game week, I don't really expect clean sheets in this game, but if we can see some save points from Kepa, I think will actually add up to an acceptable, a fairly reasonable score from him this week. So I think it could be okay, but not expecting any clean sheets really. It could happen technically, but I'm not got particularly high hopes in this one. Moving into defence, we've got Trippier, who I'm not 100% sure if I want to start or not. This is a really, really difficult one. Arsenal away is probably the most difficult fixture you can face at the moment, given that Arsenal's form is just so good. And Trippier, although we love him for his creativity, and maybe Arsenal have shown that they can concede a goal or two, we do still wonder if, maybe there's going to be some goals in this game, or maybe, two best defenders in the league. Maybe this could be a low-scoring game. Very, very difficult to say. This is a really, really exciting game, and I don't know how it's going to go as well. I think different people have different opinions. I think it's difficult to bench Trippier, though. Even in those difficult games, he does seem to come up with something, whether it's an assist, whether it's, maybe a goal from a free kick. And honestly, there's a very good chance that Newcastle managed to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal anyway. Don't think it's very likely, but it's definitely a possibility. So it seems a little bit risky to bench Trippier in this game week, even though he's not predicted to get very many points in this game. It's just quite a risky one, so I'm really, really on the fence about this one. Next up, Luke Shaw. He's a player who I'm definitely playing. He is, the one defender who I'm actually convinced by. All of my other four defenders, it's like I could play any of those, any two of those four, but Luke Shaw is the one that's definitely sticking around. Another good performance against Wolves, playing in the centre-back position, picking up bonus points as well, which is good to see. Bournemouth is the next fixture, and Manchester United's defensive form, we do expect to continue. So hopefully another clean sheet against Bournemouth. Shaw is definitely a player that a lot of people want, even though he hasn't got a double game week. I'm sure a lot of people would be getting him in this week anyway, because he's just an absolute cracker at the moment. So yeah, Luke Shaw, very, very happy with him. And finally in defence, I've got Bueno in at the moment, who plays against Aston Villa away. I know that Wolves are, fairly tough defensive team, aren't they, at certain times. So maybe if Wolves can just keep a clean sheet to the 60th minute, when Bueno is often substituted off after 60, 65, 70 minutes. So it does give you that extra 20 minutes where it doesn't really matter if Wolves concede. In a way, that's a little advantage for Bueno, and you can potentially get those cheesy, jammy clean sheets from him. So I'm wondering if he's the one to play, but I'll show you my bench very shortly, guys, and you can let me know your opinions on what two defenders you would play out of my team. I'd love to know what you guys think would be the best two defenders to play alongside Luke Shaw, because honestly, I could flip a coin and be happy with the answer probably no matter what. But we'll come to that one. Phil Foden in midfield is a player I'm not happy with. Still getting benched, still getting rotated. It doesn't make any sense, really, does it? We know Foden, every time he's on the pitch, he looks good. But Pep Guardiola seems to have this issue with certain players' attitudes. And maybe Foden is a player who is displaying some kind of attitude problems in training, or not got a smile on his face in training. Pep Guardiola is just a weird guy at the moment. And Foden seems to be one of the tragedies of this team. And it's not helping Man City at all. It really isn't. Because you can see that Foden needs pleased to play. And maybe that Everton result would have been different if a player like Foden was on the pitch for the full 90 minutes, because every time he gets on the pitch, he looks good. But that's not for me to say. There's a reason why Pep Guardiola is considered one of the best managers in the world, and I am not. So, in a sense, yeah, I feel like I just got to cut my losses with Foden a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you guys are feeling the same way. Foden is probably it's just time to just forget about him for whatever reason, and maybe he comes back into the team later, maybe he doesn't. But yeah, I'm not happy with this. It's not an amazing fixture. Chelsea, I don't expect them to concede too many goals, even against Man City, the best attack in the league. We've got Marcus Rashford next, who plays against Bournemouth again, just like Luke Shaw. He's been in some fantastic form, even when he played his second half in Game Week 18. You can see everything about him was just so good. Like, he's just like on it right now, really on it, taking him to the next level. We know that he's a really good football player, like a top football player. And it just seems like he has to find the right rhythm, he has to find the right confidence, and he's got that right now. And if he can keep this up and keep getting better and better, then I think he's going to be a really good pick for the long term. So yeah, Bournemouth at home, love this fixture. I think Rashford is even a potential captaincy option for you. If you did want to go a little bit differential, then this is probably the game week to go a little bit differential. And I know a lot of people will be talking about double game week players, who are obviously, some of which are going to be good captain options. But Rashford, I think, is a little bit of an underdog potential captain option as well. Remember, listed as a midfielder, he's going to get more points for goals than the likes of Haaland and Mitrovic. So, yeah, maybe worth a little risk there and seeing what he could do. If Manchester United keep playing the way they're playing at the moment and Rashford keeps playing the way that he's playing at the moment, then it's probably going to be a decent result here for United against Bournemouth. Next up, we've got Martinelli. Difficult fixture, good player, team in fantastic attacking form. And with attackers, as I always say, form over fixtures, that's all that matters. And I think Arsenal's attack is somewhere we want to be right now. Double game week's likely to come up very soon. We could have a double game week as soon as game week 21 for Arsenal. So we definitely want to be keeping Arsenal players, loading up on Arsenal players. And that's definitely something I'm considering even this week. How am I going to get these Arsenal players in? I want more of them. One is not enough for me. So I'm going to try and see what I can do next. And finally, in midfield, I've got Andreas in here. So a lot of you guys are going to have Andreas on your bench. I think now is the game week to bring him in to the starting 11 just for one game week only. After that, the fixtures do look a bit rubbish. Newcastle away, Spurs and Chelsea there. They're not ideal. Maybe Spurs is not such a bad fixture, but they're not amazing fixtures, right? So yeah, for this fixture, Leicester and Chelsea, we can imagine that Fulham probably do quite well in these games. They've been playing well so far since the break. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have a decent amount of confidence in them. Andreas is obviously on set pieces, playing very advanced, taking shots on, creating chances for his teammates. Is he quite captaincy territory? I'm not sure. I think he is there or thereabouts. I think you could potentially captain him, but he's not a player who I think is, a clear-cut captaincy option in the same way as someone like Mitrovic is still very much a clear captaincy option. Haaland, I would still say, is a clear captaincy option. I put Andreas quite in that category, but he's definitely a player you should be playing if you do have him on your bench. Switch him in. I know a lot of you guys have got Almiron. Switch Almiron out, Andreas in. Makes a lot of sense, right? Up front, we've got Haaland against Chelsea away. Still think he's going to have a good game. I'm not convinced by Chelsea's defence completely. Like I said earlier, I don't expect Chelsea to keep any clean sheets in this game week, to be honest. So it could really be a situation where Haaland is able to run at the Chelsea defence and cause some problems for them. Man City still playing very well in attack. They're still doing some very good things. And Haaland is, just in fantastic form still. So, form over fixture once again suggests that this is going to be a decent score for him. Next up, Harry Kane against Crystal Palace. One of the defensively kind of more rigid teams. And Spurs really disappointed in the last game week, really. I don't really know how that happened, that they lost 2-0 to Aston Villa. Maybe Unai Emery's Aston Villa is a team to look out for, really. But yeah, Crystal Palace away. I think it's still a possibility that a player like Harry Kane, who is just so consistent in FPL, could do something here. He's not a player I'm looking to sell. I like the look of the double game week next week if that goes ahead, and the Fulham fixture thereafter as well. So yeah, Kane's still a player who I'm not loving right now necessarily. A bit disappointed in the Aston Villa game. If he got a goal in that game, then I would have been much happier right now, but it wasn't even close, really. And finally, Darwin Nunez still got the best underlying numbers of any player in the entirety of the Premier League since the break, since the return to football, and indeed before that as well. So, really difficult to say. Sell him, keep him. Brentford, a team that are typically not great defensively. I'm wondering if their switch to a back five formation might change that, might impact that a little bit. Obviously, the Brighton fixture after that, it's typically a bad fixture, but at the same time, Brighton have been conceding a lot of chances. We saw them against Arsenal who really were able to create a lot of opportunities against them. Maybe some more fortunate than others, but still, you've got to be in it to win it. You've got to make your own luck in many ways when you're an attacking team. So yeah, Darwin is a player we've got there as well. And let me show you the bench quickly, guys. We've got Ward against Fulham. Obviously not going to play him ahead of the double game week Kepa. We've got Almiron against Arsenal away. Am I tempted to play him? Yes, but there's no one really. I look at this team, and apart from Foden, who I think is going to be my transfer out anyway, most likely, I don't really know where else I would swap. So Almiron could come in for Foden, and I could make no transfers. That is an option. Or if I make a forward transfer, then maybe Almiron comes into for Foden as well. Either way, I'm not fully convinced because I just feel like Foden should play, but he's just too risky. We've got Cancelo here against Chelsea. If I knew Cancelo was going to start against Chelsea, I would be playing him. But he's now rotation risk, which is really, really frustrating. I don't actually think Chelsea have got enough about them in attack. And I think maybe Man City have been unlucky to concede the goals that they have so far since the break. And I feel like clean sheets are very much on the horizon for Man City. And Chelsea's probably a decent opportunity to get clean sheets. But I don't know if Cancelo's going to start. I don't know if he's going to come off the bench for another one-pointer, just like he did in Game Week 17. Is it worth the risk when I've got these other players who are actually fairly decent? Lewis Dunk I've got here as well. Everton away. Everton not a great attack by any stretch of the imagination. And Brighton a decent defence before the break, but they still continue this habit of conceding the odd goal, and then we saw against Arsenal they conceded a lot of goals, and their underlying numbers are just not as good as they were pre-break as well. They are conceding more chances right now. Don't know why that is. I don't know if that can improve. But again, it's Everton, which is a good fixture, and it's Dunk who does provide a little bit of aerial threat as well. So it's difficult. I'd like to play Dunk, but look, I only want to play 3 defenders. Too many goals are being scored. Too few clean sheets are being kept in the Premier League right now. Don't want to overload on defenders, but I could play Cancelo. I could play Dunk. Trippier and Bueno could come out here. Like I said, let me know, guys, what would you do in that situation? Who would you play out of the 4 defenders? Trippier, Bueno, Cancelo and Dunk. Who would you play? Because I'm really not sure. Now, from here on, we've got to make some transfers, and this is where things have got really difficult for me, and I've changed my mind like 8 times in the last half an hour, so it's been difficult to even make this video, but here we go. Here are my options, and I'm going to tell you what I'm most likely to do at this point, but I could change my mind again in the next few hours. But right, here are my options. The first option is to just do nothing, like absolutely nothing, because I have so many options. Often it's the case that when in doubt, you do nothing. There are a few other options that are maybe a little bit more aggressive. So first of all, Phil Foden. I can actually afford to upgrade Phil Foden to Raheem Sterling. I know a lot of people will be going for Mason Mount. If you can afford Sterling, I do prefer him to Mount. Sterling is getting much better attacking numbers. He's playing more directly. He's playing further forward, and he's maybe more suited to this 4-3-3 formation than a Mason Mount, who's maybe suffering a little bit for it. So yeah, I do like Sterling a bit more than Mount, but I don't really love any Chelsea attackers. And are Chelsea attackers players that I'd want to keep for the long term? No, I'm only really considering them because of the double game week, nothing more. I'm not convinced by Chelsea really at all going forward, which is quite difficult. So is that a good move? Foden to Sterling? Maybe, maybe not. Not fully convinced. Another option is to go for Darwin Nunez to Mitrovic, but that feels very emotional. Darwin has still got the best underlying numbers, and you feel like he only needs to get 1 goal to sort himself out, and everything is going to be a lot better. Darwin is a player who I don't really need to sell at all. Like, it's pretty luxury of a transfer to sell him, so I've got a lot of doubts about that. And also, what if Mitrovic gets a yellow card in the first game? You know, if I move Darwin to Mitrovic, Mitrovic gets a yellow card in the first game, I'm absolutely mudded, and it's going to be really, really difficult to get any kind of green arrow if you are dealing with a Mitrovic who's got a low score in that game. Whereas Darwin against Brentford, that actually could be okay. I know, we're all going to say, oh no, Darwin, he doesn't score his chances. He only needs to score 1 of the many, many chances he's getting, and that'll be absolutely fine. His numbers are just so good that it's physically impossible for him to keep missing at this rate. He will score eventually. It's just a case of when. Don't know when it's going to be. It will happen. It will happen. So, yeah. Logically, everything says keep Darwin. So there's no real Mitrovic transfer that makes sense. Haaland and Kane, not going to sell them. Both got double game weeks next week. Darwin is the only player I could sell, and I don't really want to sell him. I don't think that's a good move, really. I think it's an emotional move, and I don't really want to be drawn into that. I think Darwin, you know, in terms of predicted points and things like that, even over the next 2 game weeks, Darwin is, you know, including the double game week. In game week 19 and 20, the models are predicting Darwin to outscore Mitrovic over the next 2 game weeks. So it doesn't even really fully make sense. And it also puts me into the territory of putting so much money in my bank that I'm basically just not spending anything at all. Especially considering I'll probably move Foden to an Arsenal midfielder at a certain point, which will save even more money. And I'll just be taking all of my money out of my team. Which brings me to my final transfer option, and that still involves cutting my losses with Foden, but going for a player who is a little bit more longer term in terms of how we're thinking we're going to set up, and that is going for Ødegaard, who's got the best numbers of any Arsenal attacker right now. He's looking really good, looking really sharp, and we know that Arsenal are going to have multiple double game weeks very, very soon. So it's going to be nice to set up with the top team in the league, getting multiple of their players in, particularly attackers, because they seem to be doing much better in attack than defence. So yeah, Foden to Ødegaard, I'm going to put that down as the transfer that I'm going to make this week. For now, this is what I'm thinking, unless I change my mind in the next few hours, because this is really the best I can come up with, if I'm completely honest. It's the transfer move that I like the most. I'm not fully convinced by going for Fulham assets long term. I'm a little bit worried about Mitrovic and the fact that, you know, my forwards that I've got right now are probably the best forwards you could have anyway. Mitrovic is nice for 1 game week punt, and it would be a nice captain option, but again, not fully convinced by that. Foden to Sterling, 1 week punt. Am I actually fully convinced by the Chelsea attack? No, I'm not. You know, we probably do expect players like Haaland and, you know, Rashford potentially to actually outscore, you know, your Sterlings and your Mounts even on a single game week. So, therefore, it doesn't really seem worth it. So, for me personally, I think I'm just going to ignore this double game week. I think I'm going to say this double game week is a trap. I'm not touching it. I'm just going to try and set up for future game weeks and try and think a little bit more long term. And if I have to take a minor L this week, then, you know, so what, so be it. I'm not expecting a huge green arrow this week necessarily. But on the other hand, you know, the fact that I'm not going too far in on the double game week players maybe is an advantage if the double game week doesn't work out this week. And certainly moving forward in future game weeks, when everyone is scrambling to remove those Chelsea players, to remove those Fulham players, I'm already in the clear and I'm already starting to set myself up for future game weeks. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's kind of the motive behind what I'm thinking right now. I think even though it might not work out in game week 19 necessarily, in game week 20, 21, I think I'll start getting kind of seeing the rewards of that slightly longer term thinking. Finally, on captaincy, guys, I think Haaland as the captain makes a lot of sense to me. I think Rashford on the vice captain as well. But we're going to leave it there. This is kind of what I'm thinking my team is probably going to look like come the deadline. Again, not sure. Lots can change. Sterling still an option. Bringing in Mitrovic for Darwin still an option. Or it could just do nothing and stick with Foden or play Almiron instead of Foden. Loads of options. And certainly in defence, my defence is not set at all, and I'm going to probably be changing my defenders all the way until deadline, and whatever it happens to end up on, that'll be the final team. Alright guys, we're going to call it there. Thank you so much for watching, and apologies that the energy or the voice or whatever wasn't quite fully there today. Hopefully we're going to be better soon. If you wouldn't mind liking the video anyway, I really appreciate that. Subscribe as well if you're new. Can't guarantee a deadline stream today either, just because I don't think I can do this for an hour or hour and a half or whatever it is. Yeah, not feeling great, but fine. It'll be fine. I'll be fine in a couple of days, and we'll get back to very, very regular content, which I'm very, very excited about getting stuck in and doing some more content, particularly pertaining to double game weeks. But we're going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, good luck in game week 19 if I don't talk to you again before then, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.